It's a good 1-2 punch. Ellinger and Johnson looking to improve a Longhorn offense. Middle of the pack in that high-powered Big 12 last year, although Tom Herman's team did score higher than their season average when playing against ranked opponents. So, obviously, we know what they're going to have in Week 2 in Austin. It'll be the LSU Tigers. But overall, you know, when we start looking at this team, Joey, what are the expectations for Tom Herman? Because the whole Joe Test, Texas is back. A lot of people think that's the case right now.
He's in his third year, and you're talking college football, you're talking recruiting, and it takes a few years to get your own guys in there. He's recruited much better on the defensive side. You talk Big 12 football, you always wonder, can these teams get a couple stops? Can they get better on the defensive side of the football? I expect Texas to be a very good football team that's going to make some noise, not just in the Big 12, but be in the conversation at the end of the season. Ellinger, if you're watching, he is a quarterback that knows how to make plays. He knows how to win. It's not flashy. It's not going to be the 60-yard takeoff runs, but he scored 16 touchdowns. So he's fun to watch because he gets the job done. Texas will be a team that should get another at least 10-win season.
Yeah, this football team is going to be, you know, same as usual, I think, in the Big 12. It's going to be Oklahoma and Texas. But Texas is what people would consider back. I don't know where you had to go and find that answer from because, you know, they're a team that's been chasing Oklahoma. They found ways to beat them, but not when it came down to it in the Big 12 championship game a year ago. So I agree with him. I think Sam's a very quality quarterback that can do great things in the conference. I think he's very similar to maybe a right-handed Tim Tebow. You know, in that system, it's Tom Herman, right, that follows the Urban Meyer tree. You know, he's not going to be able to throw the ball as well as some of the others in that conference, but the ability to be a dual threat makes him a challenge.
And just like Tim Tebow, big Meek Mill fan, right? So it all comes together, right? I mean, you know, Tim Tebow's always listening to wins and losses, dreams and nightmares. He's got it all.
That's right. Heavy in his rotation. Heavy in his play rotation.
What it is, right? Although Texas does lose like 230 career starts, so a little bit of inexperience coming in. Overall, when you look at this Big 12, what do you see overall in the race?
Well, you know, the guys already talked about Oklahoma and Texas, right? You know, they're the cream of the crop. But I like Iowa State. I think Matt Campbell does a fantastic job with the Cyclones. They're going to sneak up and pick some teams off. And, you know, I watched him when he was at Toledo. I used to call some of his games. I love his attitude. I love what he brings to Iowa State. So watch out for the Cyclones. They may surprise some people.
They're always in the picture because they always beat somebody.
Yeah.
Iowa State knocks them off. And we always talk about the lack of defense in the Big 12. That's not Iowa State. They're not part of that conversation because they actually do play some defense, and that's why they knock off a team. The Big 12 has been to the playoff, and that's been Oklahoma. To make the conference as a whole be more respected, someone else has to come out of that conference at the end of a season to be part of the conversation for the playoff. And then we get more respect because we always talk about conferences, and the Big 12 that conference is down there like who's better, the Big 12 or the Pac-12. To get more into a conversation, they need more than just Oklahoma, more than just Texas. Another team needs to get up to that level to get respect for the entire conference.
Well, what's the level for you? Is an Iowa State having to get to 10 wins, a double-digit kind of win? Because I think there's a lot of teams in this conference.
I think it is, really.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams in this conference that could be around 8 or 9 wins, but to get over that hump, it's going to be really difficult with what Oklahoma brings to the table this year. Jalen Hurts, don't forget, you know, he's not walking in like Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield did. They didn't have the wins that he has. He's bringing in 27 wins from the SEC.
Right.
They're going to be very difficult to beat this season.
Remember, you look at the Big 12, they're the only conference, right, Power 5 conference that doesn't have a win since the college football playoff era. Kind of crazy when you think about how many good teams they have. All right, so we're talking Big 12. Ryan, I'll start with you. Give me a big, bold prediction for the Big 12 this season. What are we going to be looking back on College Football Live sometime in January saying this happened in that conference?
Well, I think there's only really 2 teams that are vying for it and one really that has it. So it could be like this. I think Joey's going to tell us this a little bit later. But I would probably say Matt Rule and Baylor. What he's been able to do in just 1 year after being I think they're 1-11. You know, they got to 7-6 a year ago. I think they make the next step maybe and get somewhere to 8 or 9 wins. They've really turned that program around, and Matt Rule is really a tremendous force for them.
A huge turnaround since the Art Briles era down in Waco. What do you got?
This is the year that Texas wins the Big 12. They were close last year. They knocked off Oklahoma one time, couldn't do it twice. Ellinger is a quarterback that, 41 touchdowns accounted for, 16 rushing. If it wasn't for Kyler Murray and what he was able to do in the big splash plays, I think we'd have talked a lot more about Ellinger. Texas wins the Big 12.
This is the year that the Kansas Jayhawks.
Why are you smiling?
Let's go!
Bowl eligible everyone to Les Miles, the Kansas Jayhawks.
Rock
You heard
Chalk
it here
Jayhawk.
first.
You're going.
That's
no, okay,
right.
okay.
You heard
like
it here
that
first.
But we talking 6 wins? We talking 5 and 7, and they got the grades to get into it.
Hey, bowl
I think I see
eligible.
Kirk Herbstreit over there, so you know how he feels about these games.
6 wins possibly, but they're going to go bowling.
I will tell you this, and we're working with them. It's going to be over on ESPN Plus, the Miles to Go feature about Kansas, and I think that's going to be great because I think he's having fun. And I think that's honestly one of the storylines to look at over here in the Big 12 about what he brings. Because listen, he's had some success down in Bayou Bengals. Let's see if he can bring it over to the Jayhawks.